Hey everyone, it's Jill, the Wandering Stamper. We are in beautiful Estero, Florida this week, staying at the Accordion State Park, and today we decided to paddle the Estero River and check out the preserve. Once we get back to the RV, it'll be time to hang out in the stamp room. I hope you can join me. Hello everybody, it's Jill, the Wandering Stamper. Today we are going to work on making a really cute fun cold fold card using the Something Fancy bundle. We'll be using the Something Fancy cling stamps, which has some really great sayings. It pretty much covers most needs that you have for your cards. And then it also comes as a bundle with the Something Fancy dies, which I really like. These make great tags. They're great backgrounds for your stamps. They add some cute embellishments to your cards. There's some little extra elements to add to your tags when you're cutting them out. It's really a great little set. So we're going to use that. And then of course the gorgeous fancy Flora paper. I love this paper. This paper is so pretty. And it is in the mini catalog that's out right now. So you have until the end of April to purchase this paper if you like it. It's really, really pretty. So what we're going to create today is a really unique card design. Let me figure out where to put my stuff and get it out of the way here. We are going to use these colors because I feel like suede, browns, greens are not used as much as they should be. So I picked out these designer series papers from the paper pack. This is actually the reverse side of this, so we're going to use these and these. And then I have some white cardstock, and then I also have some soft suede paper, which coordinates beautifully with this designer series paper. So that's what we need. And then I'm also going to use these rustic metallic adhesive back dots because they just go with this paper so well. So what we're going to create today is a Scenic panel accordion fun fold. This is basically one panel that's folded like an accordion, just like it says, and it makes a super cute card. And then we're going to add a panel to the back to create your message, and it fits in a regular envelope when it's folded down, and then it's really easy for somebody to display on a tabletop. So let's get started so I can show you how to make this. So the first thing we're going to do is cut our soft suede cardstock. We're going to cut that at 4 1/4 by 9 1/2. So 4 1/4. So this would actually make 2 cards because it just cut it in half. So if you wanted to make 2 at a time, this is a great way to do it. And then we need it to be 9 1/2 inches long. So I'm going to pull my arm out and cut it at 9 1/2 inches. All right, and then once that's cut to 4 1/4 by 9 1/2, make sure I did 4 1/4 because I was talking. Yes, okay. Now we're going to score it. So there's lots of score lines on this, so you got to pay attention. I will have them listed below along with all of the directions on how to make this card and a link to the products. So if you need to find that, look below. I will have everything there for you. So we're going to score this on the 9 1/2 inch side. We're going to score at 1 1/4. And then 1 3/4, 2 1/4, 2 3/4, 6 3/4. You gotta love this extra arm they give you so that you can reach these longer measurements. 7 1/4, 7 3/4, and 8 1/4. So that basically gives you one big panel in the middle, three little panels, and a little bit bigger panel, and it's the same on this side. So we'll set that aside. And now the way I like to do this is I want this to be my large panel on the front. So I'm going to work with this one first, and I'm going to cut that at 3 and 7/8 by 4 1/8. So I think I want this to be my top. So I'm going to cut this at 4 1/8. And I'm going to save this for the back of my card. And then 3 7/8. I had a momentary brain fart. All right, so then that will fit like so on the front of your card. Okay, so we're going to set that aside. Now I want this to be on the outside edges of my card, so I'm going to kind of figure out how I want it to be. I kind of like it this way, I think. So what I'm going to do is cut this so it's 4 1/8 again, because that's our height. So 4 1/8. I think I'm going to do it which way do I want to do it? I think I'll do it this way. Okay, so I'm going to do 4 1/8. You just kind of want to figure out which direction you want your paper to go. All right, so I want my paper to line up this way. So now, if you have a pattern like this where you want everything to kind of stay together, then you want to cut the measurements in order. And if you're using a piece of paper that doesn't have any design to it, of course I don't have any in front of me. Like if you were using something like, well, okay, let's see. Maybe something like this that doesn't really matter. Then you can just cut, it'll make more sense when I show you the other samples, but you would cut six of the thin panel and 2 of the wider panels, and you don't really have to cut them in order. That'll make more sense in a few minutes. Right now we're going to cut it in order. So I'm going to cut my designer series paper at 4 1/8 because that's our height of our card. And now we're going to cut it at 1 1/8 by 4 1/8. So our 4 1/8 was this way. So 1 1/8. And then I like to set these aside in order of cutting them. So that's our 1 1/8. And now I'm going to cut 3 of 3/8 by 4 1/8. So 3/8. So I'm going to cut 3 of these. So 1, and I'm going to put it, I like to keep these in order. 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to cut 3 7/8 by 4 1/8. Now that was our middle piece because I'm doing kind of a contrast. So that was my middle piece. And then the next piece I'm going to cut is 3 1/8 by 4 1/8 again. We're going to cut 3 more of those. So as you can see, we're kind of working right to left. So if you were doing one piece of paper, that's how these measurements will come into play and being in a certain order. But we're not really working this design that way. Okay. And then the last measurement is the 1 1/8 by 4 1/8 again. So we basically just cut from left to right all the panels that we need. All right. So that is that. We'll set these scraps aside. And then you need a piece of white, basic white cardstock, and you're going to cut that at 3 7/8 by 4 1/8. Same measurements as we did the front. 3 7/8 by 4 1/8. So I'm going to do 3 7/8 by 4 1/8. All right, that's going to be the back of our card. So we'll set that aside. So that's all of our cutting. Move that out of the way. So the way I found the easiest to do this is I don't fold these yet. I'm going to go ahead and put all my panels on first. So I'm going to do my middle panel first, which is the largest panel. And get my Stampin' seal. This paper is so pretty. And I would have never normally thought to use the soft suede, but I really like it. It would make a really pretty wedding card too, because it's a little bit more gender neutral for the bride and groom. Okay, so we're going to center that as best you can. Didn't do that very well. Do it this direction. Okay. All right, and so now I'm just going to work left to right. And we're just going to center each of these on each of the panels. And I know you probably can't see my scoring lines on the camera, but they're there. So you just kind of work along the row. Now, if we were using like a 12 by 12 sheet of paper in one pattern, that's kind of where cutting everything in order comes into play. But I'm using a 6 by 6 sheet of paper, so that doesn't really work out because this is longer than 6 inches. So that's kind of why I did it this way. But just so you know, if you're using a 12 by 12 sheet of paper and you really like the whole pattern, then you can do all your cuttings in order along the same side of the paper, and you'll be able to just create this sort of panorama. Now, putting these on is probably the thing that takes the longest. Look at that, mine's crooked. I'm a perfectionist when it comes to that kind of stuff. It really bugs me when things are crooked. I'm going to try to take this off and fix it. All right. Most people don't notice when things are crooked. I know they're there. All right, put this one on. The great thing about this adhesive is when you go wonky like I did and go off the page, you just run your finger along it and push them back where they go. And they're fine. I think I flipped it over too. Okay. It's there. So now I'm going to work on the other side. See, and the pattern kind of has some continuity to it, which I like. Okay. You could also use liquid glue for this if you feel like you're going to need to move it around. That one's a little crooked, but we're going to leave it alone. I'm going to stop being so fussy. Okay, and then this last one. And you do want to be mindful that your top edges are sort of lined up the same. I am just not getting things straight today. It just makes it flow nicely on the card when visually. All right, so that's all done. So now I'll flip it over, and normally I'll put the back on. Let's see, let's go ahead and stamp our sentiment so that if we mess up, we can fix it. I'm just using the happy birthday stamp. Make sure I have my paper facing the right way. It goes this way. Just a simple happy birthday. My head's gonna go in your way for a second. All right, didn't like that. We're gonna flip it over. It's hard to do this without looking in the camera. All right, that's better. Sorry if you saw my gray hair. Take off my stamp real quick. Okay, So that's there. Now, if you end up flipping your paper over like I just did, and if your paper looks, you can tell you cut the other side, just run your bone folder along the edge and it fixes that little crease where your cutter went. Perfect. Okay, so that's gonna go there. And then I think I wanna add a piece of our scraps to that. So I'm gonna go ahead and maybe cut this in half. I'm just gonna eyeball it and cut it. Nothing fancy, just want to make a little strip of it. Great way to use your scraps. And it brings the back of the card, the front of the card to the back of the card. So I'm just gonna put this on here. And then I'll just take my scissors and give it a little trim. There you go. So that just kind of makes it cohesive on the back. Now I'm just gonna lay down some adhesive. And this gives you a nice little area to put your message on your card. The back's a little harder to see where the score lines are. And you just want to get it straight as possible. Okay, so that's the back of the card. So now we're just folding. So when we fold it, we're going to start with a valley fold. And I like to bone fold it as I go. And then do a mountain fold. This is such an easy card to make. And then a valley. You're just folding it basically like an accordion. And then one more. Whoop. Okay. Oops, I accidentally folded that wrong. There we go. Okay. So there we go. So that's that side. And we're going to do the same thing over here. So we start with a valley. And then a mountain. And then a valley. And finally a mountain. Mountains and valleys. All right. So there's our card. Okay, so now we're going to add some embellishments. So before we came on, I went ahead and I tied up this bow. This is the lovely linen thread. What is this called? I love this thread. Where is it? Fine art ribbon. That's what it's called. It's really pretty. It's got some gold in it, and I feel like it adds a little shimmer, and it's goes along with the colors of this card really well. And then I used the dies. I stamped "You Matter to So Many" on white, and then I stamped the next size, or die cut it out, and then die cut the next size matching die with it. So we're going to attach those together. Actually, I think I'm going to use dimensionals. Where's my dimensionals? I like to use the take your pick tool so that it's quick and easy and I don't have little pieces of paper stuck everywhere. Okay. So now I'm going to take this and layer this on here. So it gives it a little bit of a, wow, I just can't get anything straight today. That's so weird. Having a crooked day. Anybody ever have a crooked day? Okay. That's going to go on there, and now I'm just going to add my ribbon. So what I think I'm going to do is go ahead and use Stampin' Seal Plus for this. I want it to be super strong. I'm going to go ahead and put some down on this, figure out where I want this. I think I'll put it right here, like that. And then I'm going to use, I think, a glue dot. I'm gonna use a glue dot. I feel like the glue dots are really good for ribbons. They're easy to work with. Actually, just pop my ribbon right on there. I might do 2 just to make sure there's plenty of stick. All right, these are super sticky. Perfect for ribbons. All right, so now make sure my ribbon's tight, and I'm just gonna put that on here. Okay, and finally, we're gonna add some of these rustic metallic back dots. These are pretty. They're different. And they're adhesive back, so you don't have to mess with any kind of glues for it. So I think I'll use maybe a small one here. And I'll do one right here. Okay, and that's it. Look how easy that card was to create. So as I mentioned, it'll go nicely in a regular medium envelope. I think I have one over here. So it fits perfectly in that envelope and sits up on the counter. You have plenty of space to write. So it's really a fun little card. You could actually go one more step further and take some of your paper that you have left over and cover the back panel of the envelope with, you know, some of the paper. You would just adhere it on there and then take your scissors and just cut around it, and you can make a matching envelope really, really easily for that card. So there's the card. It's super easy to make. And here's a couple more that I made. This is using the same designer series paper. I just used different colors. This one says grateful for the everyday magic of you, and I added some brass butterflies. Again, it has a panel on the back for sentiment, for writing your thoughts. And then here's another one using the different designer series paper. This is really, really pretty paper. I used some ribbon and a different set of the dies and some metallic dots, and it's got a message for the back. And then here's one using the Dainty Flowers designer series paper, and I just used the polka dotted sheet that also comes in this pack. It matched really nicely on the Blackberry Bliss, and then I added some scraps to the back and made a card for that one as well. So super easy card. I feel like they're unique, they're eye-catching, and who wouldn't love to get this in the mail? So if you love this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe so you can see all my other videos. I will have a link to all of the products and the measurements and cutting and scoring measurements and the instructions to make this really sweet card. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining me.